For this movie, I am going to be demonstrating Refine Edge. In the Layers panel, you can see that I have a photograph of Kristen Stewart on top of an image of a scary sky. I've opened up the scary sky, rotated it, unlocked the background, repositioned it. I placed an image of Kristen Stewart. This is a portrait. The portrait was taken by James White. It's on a neutral background. You can see that there's some flyaway hair. I'm going to make a selection of this image, and I am going to use the the quick selection tool. It's underneath the magic wand, and you can see that when I select the quick selection tool, it is a brush and it can be resized. You can resize it by going to your keyboard and pressing the backspace parenthesis or bracket, or the forward space parenthesis or bracket. Okay, so I'm making it smaller and larger. You can also make the brush larger and smaller by going to the size drop-down menu in the control bar. And in the control bar as well, you can see that we have the quick selection tool selected. We've got the plus on the quick selection tool selected and not the minus. So there are three options for that tool in the control bar. Regular, which is just going to make a selection, and then if you let go and click off to the side, it won't add to the selection. If you turn add on, that's almost like pressing shift with on your keyboard, and the minus is like pressing control. So add to the selection. So I'm going to go in and just start making a selection. You can see the quick selection tool does a really good job of painting in the selection that I want for the areas of contrast around the shoulders and arms, and a little bit in the hair, but it doesn't do the greatest job of selecting flyaway hair. So I'll go in and I'll select with the lasso tool, and of course I can press add to selection or minus out of the selection. And again, in the control bar, it shows that I have the lasso selected, and I've got the regular lasso selected, which is not add to selection. The next button over is add to the selection. The third one is subtract from the selection. And then the fourth is intersect with selection. I'm going to go ahead and add to the selection, and that is like pressing shift while I am painting or dragging or lassoing the selection. So I'm just going to go in and grab a little bit of this hair here just to show you what Photoshop is capable of when we use that refine edge. And you can see that it's added to the selection. I can go in and add more to the selection, and if I press Command plus, you can see that I can zero in on areas that I want to maybe try to add by zooming in and taking a good look at where the areas are of the flyaway hair. And because I have the add to selection selected, it's adding to the selection without me having to press shift. So I'm going to zoom back out, Command minus, and I'm going to show you that the Refine Edge tool, or the button, is right up at the very top of the screen in the control bar. So as soon as you make a selection, you'll be able to see it. If I click on it, it will open up my Refine Edge dialog box, and you can see immediately what my selection will look like if I use a mask on that image or on that image layer. The selection isn't that great because it hasn't been refined. It is being viewed on layers. So we've got that drop down, view as marching ants, view the selection with the standard selection border. We've got view as overlay, and you can see that while I'm holding my cursor over each one of these view drop-down options, it tells me exactly what is going to happen when I click on black, view the selection over a black background. So I can toggle through and show or view what the mask will look like, what it will look like on the layers, and you can see that each one of these view modes has an M, a V, a B, a W, K, an L, and an R. So those are the key commands if you need to toggle back and forth. So if I remember that B is black and L is on layer, if I toggle out, click out, B and L, right? The smart radius I'd like to turn on, and I'm just going to zoom that number up a little bit and see if my selection is refined in any way. And it is. It's a little bit refined. I can go in and click on the Refine Radius tool and expand that detection area, and you can see the brush is quite small, a lot smaller than I need it to be. So I'm going to make that brush a little bit bigger, and you can see in the control bar the size is getting larger. I'm going to click and paint, and you can see that I'm leaving my plus sign outside of the selection and painting so that Photoshop gets a really good idea of what I don't want and what I do want. And you can see immediately the selection has gotten a little bit better. On black, back on layer, zoom in, and if I want to, right now, I'm going to bypass everything in the adjust edge for a minute and just click on decontaminate colors. And for this image, it's awesome. I didn't have to do a lot of tweaking. I did not by any means use that Refine Radius brush over the areas that were already selected quite well, or that were masked out quite well. And you can see that there is a little bit of trouble right in here, and I've just clicked on that area with the Refine Radius brush and cleaned it up. So there was a little bit of grayness that was showing through from the background on the left-hand side of the portrait, and it looks pretty good to me. So this is the Refine Radius, or the Refine Edge, of the selection that I made. And now I'm ready just to output to a new layer with a layer mask. And you can see that there are other options here, but that's my favorite, new layer with layer mask. And as soon as I say OK, I am met with a bit of a waiting period, and then Photoshop gives me a new layer with a mask, and it leaves my original layer alone. And that's it for the Refine Edge.